Alright, behind us, I have a 97 astrovan. We've done several other videos. What we're doing today is we're going to be replacing the water pump. A couple things that I found that have caused me to suspect that it's a water pump is I have a syrupy kind of smell. As the engine starts to get warm, I smell this syrup, but there's nothing leaking, and that's what's really odd about it. So I crawled up underneath and looked and seen there was some rust trails coming from the water pump bolts, and I'll show you on the new one when we pull it out exactly where it was leaking from. But we're going to go ahead and do a full installation and removal of the old water pump, installing the new water pump, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So here we go. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this airbox. Alright, now we're going to remove these screws, these bolts. They're just 10 millimeter. There's one right there, one right there, one right there. So there's a total of 4. So we're going to go ahead and zip those off. Okay, now we need to remove this fan. Try to squeeze back here so you can see it. There's a little bolt right there, and what we need to do is we need to remove that, and we'll just take a big crescent wrench to do that. Let me show you how. Alright, I went ahead and put the crescent wrench on here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but anyway, so hopefully you can see it's sitting right on there. And then I'm just going to take a hammer, old-fashioned impact, and just move the fan out of the way. And that's all there is to it, breaking that loose. Alright, so got it off. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to remove this just to get it out of my way. I just don't want to have to try to deal with it. Just another thing in the way. And if you can get it out of your way, let's just go ahead and do that. There's all of our parts. Come back over here. Now we can see in here really good. So what we got to do is we got to remove these 4 screws that holds this pulley on. But we got to remove the belt is first. So here's the tensioner to remove that, and I'll show you how to do that in just a sec. And then we're going to remove this pulley, and then we'll take off this hose right here, the lower radiator hose, and then there's another heater hose right here, and then there's some bolts here. So we'll go ahead and show you how to do all that. Alright, that's going to be our next step right here. We want to remove this pulley because we got to get to these hoses behind it. So it's a 15 millimeter, and I'm just going to impact that off. Alright, our next step is we're going to take off this pulley that goes to the water pump, and it's just 10 millimeter bolts. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. There's 4 of them. Alright, finally I used some needle nose vice grips, and that seemed to work pretty good. I'm going to show you a tool I use for everything. Let me go grab it. Alright, you're going to learn a very valuable tool. This is actually called a hose removal tool. It's its specific job. And what I do with that is I'll use that to get up in here, and it kind of just breaks the seal. And you can kind of roll it around, and it's an amazing tool. I use it for so many different things, but I'll use that to release both of these hoses, and then they'll just pull right back. I still got to come down here and remove the lower radiator hose. I'm going to do that now. Alright, now we're going to work on the lower radiator hose, and I just use standard pliers and just get it on the right angle and just break it loose. And there you have that. Now let's also put a little tank down there so that I can catch my oil when it starts to drain out, or my antifreeze when it starts to drain out, so it doesn't go all over the floor. So just a little drain pan or whatever. Alright, now all that's left are those two bolts. There's one right there, and there's one on the bottom. And over here, there's one there, and one underneath. So you got this bolt here, if you can see it, and this bolt down here, this bolt here, and this bolt here. And if you've got this far, you know that basically you just got to pull those bolts, and they look like they're 15 millimeter. Right here this is called the weep hole. What this is designed to do is when your pump starts to get warm and the bearings start to wear out, it's supposed to design to leak out of there. This one's actually leaking from the back side. They're leaking back here, and I'll show you that when I pull it off. But I'm going to break these 4 bolts loose, and then we'll have the pump off, and I can show you what it looks like from there. Okay, now that I've got the bolts broke loose, I'm going to pull them out, and I'm going to put the bolts in sequence to make sure that when I put it back together that the bolts are in the correct place, so that I don't get confused how they go back together. It's always better to do it that way, because some bolts may be longer than others, and if you put it together with the wrong bolt in there, you could crack the block or something like that you really don't want to do. So here we go. I've taken all the bolts out, and I'll show you how I set this up. Alright, now that all the bolts are out, I want to hold the pump so it's nice and tight, and then just kind of tug on it. If it doesn't break loose, I've got a rubber hammer here, and just break it loose like that. You don't want to use any type of other hammer, just a rubber hammer will work great. And there you go, there's a water pump. Alright, here's the new pump. As you can see, there it's clean. I mean, obviously it's brand new, there's no issues. But if you look here at this old pump, you can see all the corrosion. Try to zoom in there for you. And you can see how bad it is, and it's been leaking for a while. But anyway, since I both got them side by side, it's good to make sure everything's the same. Just like when you're doing any automotive repair, you always want to make sure that you're putting the exact same part in, and make sure the bearings and the seats are all the same, or the threads are going to mount up to the fan. Make sure that these come out the same side, the same direction. See, this one has a little nipple on it, and this one doesn't. This is supposed to stop where the hose comes down, but the new one, or the rebuilt one, this is actually a new one, but it doesn't have that. So it's just good to kind of do an eyeball check over it. I wanted to show you one more thing on this fan. I don't know if I explained this very well, but let me show this to you real quick. This was actually my biggest hiccup on this. I didn't understand how this came off. So it's just threaded right here, but you've also got these 4 bolts. And now these 4 bolts, what they do is they hold this pulley in place. They have nothing to do with this. This is completely separate. So once you get that out of the way, this just basically threads on like this, and you just basically thread it on by hand. But when you go to break it off, what you have to do, I showed you in the video, you need to take this crescent wrench and put it right here, just so you can break it loose, and just hit it with the hammer to break it loose, and that should do what you need. Even this pump itself feels kind of rough, so it's really a good idea that we're replacing this. Anyway, just wanted to kind of share that with you too. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together, clean up the surface. Obviously, you want to grind everything down, get off all the old gasket, and then just clean it all up and put the new one on. And I might show you how to do that, just depending on how much time I have left on the video. But at least that's how to take it off. Everything goes back together in reverse order. And I'll come back and I'll show you how to do a flush at the very end.